I warned you what might happen once I started making hexagon jackets. This particular jacket reflects the spirit and colors of the fiesta season here in San Antonio, but this jacket would be beautiful in any colorway and even in a solid color. This is an advanced beginner project, but a beginner who has mastered the basic stitches will take their skills to the next level while crocheting this project. The yarn I used was the Red Heart Polo stripe because I had one lone skein that did not match the color lot in the other skeins that I'd bought for the Daisy pullover. I added the Hobby Lobby Crafter's Secret Big Idea yarn, and all of these yarns are worsted 4-weight yarns, and I used a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. I used approximately 18 ounces or 1,000 yards of yarn in my jacket, which fits a 40-inch chest. You will need to refer to your body measurement chart and adjust your yarn specifications accordingly. We're going to begin with a slip knot on our hook. And here's one way that I make it. But you know, I got some comments. Here's another way that it can be made. Just insert your hook into a loop and pull through another loop. Whoop! See, that didn't work. Anyway, I got some comments on my video about the slip knot was harder than it needed to be. Okay, well, maybe. But anyway. Let's begin with our slip knot on our hook. Now let's chain 4 or 5 if you're more comfortable. I don't like a big hole, but here under the armpit where this the start of this hexagon begins, it really doesn't matter. Okay, well then I'll just chain 5. And then you slip stitch into the first chain of your chain up in order to form a ring. And now chain 5, which counts as a double crochet and a chain 2. And now double crochet into the ring. And chain 2. Double crochet into the ring again. And chain 2. Again, double crochet into the center of the ring and chain 2. Double crochet in the center of the ring. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 2. Double crochet and chain 2. We should have 6 spots, 6 little chain spaces. We're going to slip stitch into, counting up from our first, the slip stitch where we join to the ring, 1, 2, 3, and actually, you know, what's easier is just to go back to the first double crochet and count back 2, and into that next stitch, that's where you slip stitch to join. That's the easiest way, and that's the way I do it all the time. In my opinion, that's the easiest way. All right. So double check your work. Make sure you have 6 openings, and you've already formed your hexie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. You insert your hook into that first chain space and pull up a loop and slip stitch. Now chain 2, and that counts as a double crochet. Double crochet again into that same chain space and chain 2. Double crochet into the same chain space and double crochet again in that same chain space. You have formed a corner. Into the next chain space, double crochet 2, chain 2, double crochet 2, into the next chain space, double crochet 2, chain 2, let me get some more yarn, and double crochet 2 more in that same chain space. And into the next chain space, insert your hook, double crochet 2, chain 2, double crochet 2 in the same chain space. In the next chain space, repeat that same pattern, double crochet 2, chain 2, double crochet 2. Repeat that pattern and slip stitch to join. Slip stitch to join in that stitch right there. Okay, let's look at our work. And we still have a hexagon, and he is laying flat. That is what I definitely want. In my experience with hexes, and I mentioned in an earlier video, since I've been doing these about 10 years and I've also sold as many as I've given away, I probably have made 100 at least, if not more. So when mine already at this stage were beginning to ruffle a little bit, that's when I had trouble with the fit. So let's proceed with round 3, not counting our chain ring. And here I am going to chain 1 in order to jump over to this chain space for our first stitch. When I haven't done that, sometimes I miss this stitch, and when we come back around, we're going to need to be in here. So I chain 1 so that I don't miss him. And insert the hook into the chain space, pull up a loop and slip stitch, chain 2, and this counts as a double crochet. Double crochet into the same chain space, chain 2, double crochet 2, and that's your first corner. Now we're going to begin, because this is a solid hexagon, we're going to begin to put stitches into the tops of our double crochets from the previous row. Now it's easy to miss this first one. You see the stitch looks like a P. Here's the leg, and here is the P. That's where you need to have your first stitch. Into the top of each stitch from the previous row. And now we're coming to a corner, 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet. And that is your pattern repeat. I'm going to do it one more time with you. Into your P shape is your first stitch. And your corner is 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet. Now let's count our stitches. We should have 8 stitches in this row, not including the chains. So from chain to chain, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, right on target. 2, 4, 6, 8. Now I recommend that as your hexie grows, that every single side that you count your stitches, because it just prevents me from having to frog out an entire row and do it over again. For this particular hexie and all remaining rows from now on, you should have an even number of stitches. We are going to have an alternative corner after a few rows, but until you get to the alternative corner, each row should grow by 4 stitches, because our row begins right here after the chains, and we're putting in 2 stitches in each corner as it begins or ends. This one's the ending, this one's the beginning, but we're adding 4 stitches to each row. So every row it be on an even number, and it should grow by 4 stitches. Continue this pattern repeat until you have completed row 4, and then I'll get back with you and we'll talk about the alternative corner. I've crocheted all 4 of my rows. I've been counting my stitches as I came along. So we should have 12 stitches in this row between the chains. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. These are a little different color, but with my color changing yarn. Let's begin row 5. Now, beginning with row 5, you might need something that you can use for a stitch marker once we get it done. And a stitch marker doesn't have to be one of these guys. It can be a safety pin. It could be, I've seen people use paper clips, or it could just be a piece of yarn, you know, in some color that you can see where it is. And I think I'm just going to use a piece of yarn. Let's keep it simple. You know, it's wonderful to have all of the little gadgets that we have in crochet, but for hundreds of years, crocheters did not have those things, and they just made do with what they had. A little loop of yarn will work fine whenever we get there. It's the next row that we're actually going to. We'll put it right here, where at the beginning of the 5th row. Now you're going to still chain 1 to get into that chain space. Pull up a loop and slip stitch. One of the things that I experienced with my hexies when I first got hooked on hexies was that there was an ill fit, and they were flaring out at the bottom, especially in the back where they were joined at the bottom. Because you see, we're going to fold these hexies. If you've never seen another video on the hexagon cardigans, you're going to fold it into an L. But if the corners are already flaring out, like as if there were too many stitches, then whenever you join the two, you're going to have another L on this side. Whenever you join them there, then you get this fullness, and it doesn't lay right on our body. So I came up with this alternative corner treatment, and someone else may have come up with this same solution to something, but I use it on anything that has a corner when my corners are flaring out. So the alternative corner is double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. But our first double crochet, as we have joined to complete the round, begins with a chain up of 2, and then we need 1 more for the chain space, and then a double crochet, and then a double crochet in the top of each stitch from the previous row. And remember, that first stitch looks like a P, so right there in that little kind of triangular shape is where you insert your hook for that first stitch in this row after the corner. Because we're only adding 1 stitch to each end of the row between the chain space, the alternative rows will only grow by 2 stitches. Nonetheless, the stitch count will always be an even number. In my hexies, from the time they start all the way until they're completed. Always an even number. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Let's do that stitch pattern one more time. The pattern repeat. Double crochet in the top of each stitch from the previous row. And in the corner, double crochet 1, chain 1, and double crochet 1. And that is your alternative corner pattern sequence. Let's count our stitches now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So our 5th row has 14. Now at the beginning of this row where we began our alternative corner, let's put our stitch marker, and I just do a little lark's head loop from back in my macrame days. All right, we just put him there, and the sole purpose of this is to remind us where it is. Reason being, from now on to the end of your hexagon, whatever size you need, every 3rd row after this is going to be your alternative corner, which is single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. Every 3rd row. So this is row 5. The next time you do this will be row 8, and then 11, and then 14. But move your stitch marker up every time that you complete an alternative row to help you keep up with your row count. And on those rows, your stitch count will only increase by 2, whereas all remaining rows where you have your corner is the standard corner of 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Now in those rows, it will grow by 4 stitches. So that is your pattern repeat. Now you need to refer to your body measurement chart regularly, as well to have your measurements and be measuring your hexagon as it grows. Once my hexagon side, I'm looking for a measurement of 15 on my hexagon half, and that's when I'm going to begin to fold my hexagon and then stitch up that shoulder seam, because my sleeve will be the size that I want it. So whatever size you've determined your sleeve is, that's how big you need to grow your hexagon sides. And then I will meet back up with you whenever I have reached the size hexagon I need, and we will talk about and I'll demonstrate the shoulder joint. Before we go forward with our shoulder join, I wanted to show you my hexagon half. And I mentioned earlier that because I only had one skein of this particular skein of my striped yarn, that I was going to be adding another solid color. And this is also the red heart, the It's called Amethyst. And so I always like, if I start with one brand of yarn, I like to do a whole project with that brand. I don't think that's absolutely necessary, but you know, I have my little kinks, as we all do. Now let's measure our, I was going for 15 inches. And it is spot on, maybe a quarter of an inch more. But, and I determined the size of my sleeve based on my body measurement chart. And I made my sleeve 3 inches larger than the measurement of the widest part of my arm. And so you can see that by using the alternative corner treatment, that I am able to have my hexagon half be a real nice uniform shape. The sides are not flaring out, and it is a really nice L. And that's what you want for the best possible fit. Now, as a side note, as I continue to add rows later, after I get this shoulder joint, I'm going to continue to add a few rows, at least 2, maybe more, because I'm going to come back in with some decorative stitches. And so I will continue to use the alternative corner as it's time. If I were to add 3 rows, it would be time again on the corners to use the alternative corner treatment. I just happen to end up on a row that is the alternative corner. Yours may not have been at that spot, and that's fine. Whatever measurement you need and whatever corner that turned out to be is what it's supposed to be. So just keep referring to your body measurement chart as you build your hexagons, cardigans, and or pullovers, and all will work out for you. All right, let's go ahead and start with our shoulder join. This join is called a continuous join because it is consists of a continuous piece of yarn. We come all the way across in one whole section. We will be joining it with double crochets just like the rest of our cardigan so far. And we are going to join to the other side as we folded it into our L. And you don't need to necessarily pay attention to is this the left half or the right half? It really doesn't matter unless you're trying to match some type of a color arrangement. Otherwise, it doesn't matter the way you join the shoulder. I always join mine, I guess because I'm right hand dominant, I join mine from the end of the sleeve and go to the top of the shoulder at the neck. Because once I get to the neck, I will turn the stitches and be going around the remaining 3 sides of my hexagon in order to increase the width of my jacket. Let's begin the shoulder join. So we will start out, we're in our corner, and this is where my last stitch on that row to make my hexagon at 15 inches. I came up after my last stitch, and then I slip stitch into the chain space that just like any other join to complete the row. From here, what I want to do as I join this shoulder seam, whenever we fold the sleeve out like this and expose that shoulder seam, I want this edge of that join going over to the other side. I want it to be completely straight and seamless, as if it was, all together. The join, I want it to be a seamless join to the other side. So we're going to start with a chain up of 2. And then I'm going to join it to the other side. I'm going to go into that chain space again, the exact same chain space that I'm in on the other side. I'm going to go in the top there, and I'm going to pull the loop up from the bottom and around. I'm not going to chain again. I'm just going to begin my next double crochet. That double crochet is going to be into the chain space for the corner. And I'm going to put it into the chain because I want it to stay where I put it. I don't want it to be, you know, our corners, whenever we're coming around a corner, those stitches are just wrapped around a chain. I want to go into the chain with this stitch because I want that stitch to stand where I put it. Okay, so double crochet. Pull up that loop, insert the hook into the next stitch, and pull that loop through from the bottom, and then double crochet. No chain, just double crochet in the next stitch. And that next stitch is the first double crochet in that row on the front side of our join. Now let's look at what we have so far. With 3 stitches in, let's see if our join is going to be seamless as we had planned. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. That first one opened up a little bit, but I am going to have an edging on this sleeve, even though I'm not going to add a lot of rows to it. I want this to be a short or 3/4 length cropped cardigan for summer. So I'm going to put a little edging on there, and it'll kind of camouflage that stitch. So I'm going to, you know, that it's not, I'm not going to let it bother me. It did open up a little bit though. And if that bothers you, then you may want to go ahead and play with yours a little bit more. So now we're ready again for another double crochet in our front half of our hexagon. Pull up a loop and hold that loop, insert the hook into your next stitch on the other side of your hexie, other side of your join, and pull through a loop. Yarn over, insert the hook into the other side. Now you have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that loop where you pulled it through on the other side, just make it not too tight, or else you'll kind of pinch your join down and have a tendency to kind of cinch up this seam. So just, you know, just normal tension where it can play and be where it needs to be. Yarn over and insert the hook. Remember, we're not chaining after we pull the loop through to join the other side. We're not chaining, we're just proceeding with a double crochet as normal. Oops, I was just taking off with my double crochets and not putting my loop in the other side. Okay, here we go. Pull that loop up and then proceed with your double crochet. Oops, I missed a stitch. See there? I dropped a stitch, I missed a stitch, so I need to take that out. Now that is a join. You can make a zigzag join and skip a stitch in between, and it's quite cute. But I'm not going to do that on this one. We'll save that for another day. All right. Having found value in this tutorial, Please subscribe, like, and share this video. Activate the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my tutorials. Insert the hook into the next stitch of the joining side. Pull that loop up, yarn over, and insert the hook into the first side. Pull up a loop, insert the hook, pull that loop through to join, yarn over, easy peasy. Now when we get up to what on mine is going to be the neck, there's a little kind of a trick, I guess you could say, that we need, as we turn the corner to begin our rounds, in order to get, we're going to get perpendicular to the stitches that we're doing now. So you do always need to join from the end of the sleeve, regardless if you're right hand or left hand dominant. You need to turn the work, flip the work where you're working from this is the end of the sleeve to the neck, because it's on that end, the neck side, that we will continue to add rows to get the width of the cardigan that we need to go across our chest. So since that's what we'll be doing next, we need to have this row end up there. Don't be concerned if it appears that you don't have enough stitches to continue this continuous join. I was concerned with this the first time that I did this, but you do. And we will also then turn the corner and begin our additional rows to extend the width of our jacket from that point. All right, let me get some more yarn coming out. Okay. Get that loop through there. Now, we're going to now double crochet into that chain. Get 2 loops of that chain. See, we have 2 loops there on that chain. Our hook is through there, and pull up a loop. You have the 3 loops. That's your double crochet. Complete that as usual. And then insert the hook into the next stitch right here. And complete another double crochet. And this one is also going to go into the first double crochet on this row that's going the other direction. But before we get there, that's a pretty long stretch to get there, so I want you to chain 1 and then double crochet to get into that stitch and double crochet. Okay, and I know this looks a little funky, but I promise you I've done this, well, I want to be conservative. I've done it at least 20 times, and this is the way it works. Okay, and I may have done it more than that, but hey, let's don't be bragging. All right, so now we are going to, one more time, we're going to go into, oh no, I did that too soon. Sorry. Frog that stitch. Sorry, I went too soon on that stitch I just showed you. So now we've pulled up a loop. We're going back into the corner again and double crochet and pull up a loop. Now we're going into that first chain that's in the corner of the other side where we're joining. Pull up a loop. Now we're going to see how we're almost even with the garment. We're going to get one more stitch to go up here and even out here. So we want to put this stitch in that first stitch after the corner on this side of the garment. Right here. Let me get we need to be in that stitch right there. This stitch right here, this first stitch when we come around the corner from this first half of our hexie. And that's a very long trip to make. There's two ways you can do that. First of all, you could do an extended double crochet. Let's see what that looks like. That may be our solution on this one. I want to show you alternatives because it's not always the same because of the different yarn. That looks pretty good, actually. I think that's going to do it on this one. Sometimes the treble or the extended double crochet doesn't quite work. And so what works better to get it to lay flat and more flush is to put a chain and then a double crochet. But I think this is going to be fine. We do have a bit of a divot here and we have a bit of a divot here. But I'm not concerned with that because, for one thing, this is, you know, it's pulling on it because the way it's folded. But I'm coming through around 2 more times with more rows. So I have the opportunity to work with different stitch heights in order to make the rows happy together. So right now, this is where we begin our row. We need to chain up 2, and then we're going to begin a row to come around, just like this. But we've got a few little tricks here to get us going. So at this place where we're turning the corner with our join, let me get some more yarn here. Right here, we're going to chain up 2, and that counts as a double crochet. Chain 2, and then we're going to have a double crochet here, but we're going to go into that loop in our extended double crochet. There's a loop there where we yarned over and pulled through a loop. Go right under that loop and put a double crochet. All right, and then in our next stitch will also, actually in this one you can probably come under and get 2 loops of that extended double crochet. You can get 2 loops of it, and that's what you need to do here in order. If you can't get into the 2 loops, there's another little loop just like we came into this one. There's another one of those there. You can come into that one, but I'm going to come into 2 loops from that extended double crochet. All right, so we've got 3 stitches there and it looks great. So now yarn over and come into the next space there that is it's the head of the first stitch after the corner. Come back in there again. We already went in there once, but we're going to come in there again as we go with our stitches to go around our garment again. And then we've got a double crochet in the top of every stitch from the previous row all the way around. And I know you can do that without me demonstrating it. So I'm going to let you work independently, and then I'll meet up with you right here because I want to troubleshoot with you about this, the join here. I want to troubleshoot with you so we can even this up and make it all look nice and flush. Okay, so go ahead and double crochet in every stitch all the way around. Address your corner, whatever corner you're at. If you're at, I'm going to be at a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, because that's the next one in my sequence, but yours might be different. Continue to follow the pattern for the entire garment. I will hook back up with you in a few. I've arrived at the place where I'm ready to slip. I've got a couple of more stitches and then I'm ready to slip stitch to join. But my stitch alignment is a little bit kind of off here, and I'm not exactly sure what happened on this other row, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to fix it here where these stitches are in perfect alignment. And so I'm going to have to use some different stitch heights, and I think I'm also, it seems to me that this corner right before the joint, it seems like the stitches have opened up a little bit. I don't know what I was doing, asleep at the wheel. But anyway, I'm going to fix it right here, and we're going to get lined up perfectly before we move to our next round. If we don't correct this right now, well, then we're going to get, by the time I add a couple of more rows after this, then we're going to begin to get a bulge here, and then it's going to affect the fit after that. So I'm going to come in here to the next stitch, and you may not need this. Let me qualify this portion of the tutorial. You may not need this, but the reason I demonstrate things like this for you is it may come up in something else in the future. And as I said, there are some people that they see the flaws in their garment or the ill fit of their garment, but they don't know what to do to fix it. So whenever I come into troubling areas, I like to show you how I came up with the solution to fix it. In my case, notice that my join there, what I think I may have done is when I turned the corner here, I may have turned the corner one stitch too soon, is what I think I did. I should have come up into this one, but it doesn't matter. That ship's already sailed now. We're going to fix it. In fact, if you followed, that may have happened with your garment. So I'm going to come in here with first I made a double crochet. I yarn over and inserted my hook into that next stitch as if to do a double crochet, and then I yarned over and I'm pulling up only one loop. I still have 2 loops on the hook, and so I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go back into that corner again like a double crochet and pull up a loop, pull through the 2 loops. Now I have 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to go ahead and come through all 3 of those loops, and it's magic. It's lining up perfectly. All right, so I'm going to count up from my chain, 1, 2, and this is my stitch that I'm supposed to be in right here. Slip stitch to join in that row. I really like to go over one more, but that's fine. And see, we solved the problem by doing a double crochet 2 together there, and then it pulled that all together, and because that it can adjust the height of the stitch because of the 2 together, and it went right into the right spot. And now we're ready for our next round. I'm going to put one more round of the amethyst, this purple color, and then I'm going to change colors again. So I'm going to put one more round, and then I will come back to you and show you how I add a new yarn color. And it's also going to be a specialty stitch. I'm going to put in a couple of rows of some specialty stitches to really dress up this little guy. So continue to add additional rows until you reach the approximate width that you're moving toward. If you're making this jacket along with me, you'll want to leave a couple of inches for the specialty stitches. I've completed this row and I'm to the join to complete the row. So I'm going to insert my hook in the top of that stitch. But in the next row, I would like to change colors. I want to go back to the polo stripe. So I have a loop of the polo stripe and I'm laying it on my hook, but I'm also yarning over the amethyst yarn that from the previous row. And I'm pulling through both of those. See, I have both the polo and the amethyst on the hook. I'm pulling both of those through and through the next loop also. And that's how I have joined the row to end it, as well as added my new color. Now I'm going to drop that purple yarn, the amethyst yarn. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to crochet over it for a few stitches, as well as my yarn tail of the polo. I'm going to crochet over those for a few stitches, about 5 stitches, and then I'm still going to come back later with my yarn needle and weave those ends in. But the thing about this type of a yarn, of adding the new color of yarn, is both of these, by pulling the purple one through also, you avoid having this stitch open up because you're still using that the amethyst yarn, in my case, as an anchor. And now I'm going to just pull through chain 2 of my new yarn. And so the new yarn is also attached really well. And and that stitch is not going to open up as stitches do oftentimes when you're adding a new color. Now yarn over and double crochet into the next stitch and crochet over the 2 colors of yarn. See, I have both the amethyst and the polo, and I crocheted over them right here. Okay, and now one more stitch and crochet over them again. But in this stitch, I want to put 2 stitches. The first one is half of a double crochet. You've got 3 loops on the hook to start that double crochet. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now you have 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, insert the hook back in that same stitch again. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now you have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops and chain 1. We're going to skip a stitch and go into the next stitch. We're going and drop your yarn. Do not crochet over it anymore. We will still come back whenever we complete this row, and we will weave in these yarn ends. And so I'm finished with my amethyst, so I can clip that yarn and get that out of the way. Now I want to continue to, and my next stitch is a double crochet 2 together, and that's in the same stitch. Let me talk you through that double crochet 2 together again. Let me do that over. That stitch opened up at the bottom. We'll just talk through this one. All right. Yarn over. We've already chained one. We're going to skip a stitch, go into this stitch, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You have 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go back into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now you have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. There, that's better. Chain 1, skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, and double crochet 2 together. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet 2 together. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet 2 together in the next stitch. Chain 1, double crochet 2 together, chain 1, skip a stitch, in the next stitch, double crochet 2 together. This is your pattern repeat. Continue this pattern until the corner and I will meet up with you there. Okay, and here we are to the corner. Now on my corner, oh, I lost my, but I can tell I lost my stitch marker. But anyway, this is my alternate corner treatment right here, and then I had 2 corners of the regular corner. So now it's time for me to do the alternate corner treatment. So, and with this specialty stitch, the only difference it makes is how many chains are between the stitches. You're still only going to put 1 double crochet 2 together in the corner. And I'm at the corner where I would chain 1, so I'm going to chain 1. If you're at a corner where you would have chained 2, then you need to chain 2. And then double crochet 2 together to come around the corner. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the next stitch of this corner because that's the way it is addressed here, because of the number of stitches that I have in this side. Your number of stitches may be different, and you may have a skipped stitch before your corner begins. Whatever you have in your row, you will stitch accordingly. I wanted both sides on each side of the corner to be the same. From here, continue your pattern repeat until the end of the round, and I will meet up with you there. I have completed the round of double crochet 2 together, and I'm liking the way this is looking. I didn't mention that I am color controlling to some degree my polo stripe. I only have a small amount of that one skein that I've been working with. I only have a small amount of it left, and so I'm trying to color control as best I can so that I have, whenever my hexagon halves are sewn together, whatever I choose to be on the front, I would like both of them to be the same color, because as the color gradient changes on this side, it gets more blue. Now it's not a big deal to me. I'm trying the best I can, and it's not going to be exact, but I just wanted to point that out. If you're using a color striping yarn, you may want to do that, or you may not. It's, you know, all of the color, the entire colorway that's in the polo stripe, all of the colors are in the middle, from the starting point up to near the shoulder on my, and I did that on purpose. I stopped once I was going to start back into blue from here. I stopped there on purpose so that I would have this entire run again to go on the other side of my hexagon, and then I knew I was going to put some more trim, as well as when I join in the back, I think this is going to be the back, but when I join in the back, I'm going to want to incorporate some of the polo stripe in there too. But on the front, I'm trying to color manage, control, and use the same colors on this particular round. Now, I'm not going to have to be concerned with that after this, because my next round, I'm going to add another color. And that color that I'm going to add is the limelight. Even though this color is not in this, I like the way it coordinates, and it's going to be a nice accent whenever I get the cardigan completed. And the next stitch we're going to add is one of my favorite stitches. I love to make baubles, and so that's what we're going to do. But I haven't cut my yarn yet from where I did the join of this row. I haven't cut it yet, but I have the loop where I've completed that last stitch. Now I'm going to insert my hook as if I were going to slip stitch to join in that row. But that's where I'm going to stop. But I'm going to yarn over that the yarn from this row. I'm going to yarn over. And then I'm going to add a loop. You can have a slip stitch if you want. I don't like a slip stitch because sometimes the knot pops out and shows. And so whenever I join my new color, I am on my hook. You can see I have the new color as well as the loop over the hook of the previous row, the yarn of the previous row. I'm going to pull both of those colors through. So you can see I have the yarn from the this row that we're closing off and my new yarn. And I'm going to pull both of those yarns through that last loop where we finish that stitch. And I'm going to pull my green a little bit. I don't need a tail that long. And then I'm going to take both pieces of my new yarn and I'm going to pull through a loop with both of those. Now I'm going to drop the tail and I'm going to pull down my polo stripe, my yarn from the other end. And now you can see I've got my new yarn added and my previous row is tied off and it's very neat and doesn't show. Now I'm going to drop that end of the yarn there and I'm going to chain up 1. And then I'm going to come back in that same stitch and I'm going to crochet over my yarn tails. I haven't cut the yarn from my previous row yet, but we're going to do that in a minute. But I'm going to crochet over it just a few stitches because I'm still going to come back and weave in those yarn ends. So I'm only going to go over, 3 to 5 stitches. All right, and that was a half double crochet, chain 1, and then half double crochet in the chain space from the previous row. Chain 1 and half double crochet again. Now I'm going to drop my yarn from where I started and ended, and I'm going to clip the yarn from my previous row. I don't need it anymore. Let's get that yarn out of the way. All right. And now I'm not going to crochet over my yarn ends anymore. Later they'll get woven in. And half double crochet again. And so you have 3 half double crochets here. And then I'm going to chain 1 more. And then I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to do a 4 stitch extended double crochet bobble. And that's a mouthful. Okay. Pull up and it begins just like a double crochet. So yarn over, insert the hook into the top of that double crochet 2 together, the big part. It's the first stitch and it looks like a P. Here's the leg and here's the opening. It looks like a P. All right, so insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and you now have 2 loops on the hook. Repeat that again. Yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now you have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, insert the hook again into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You have 4 loops on the hook. We have 1 more extended double crochet to complete our bobble. Yarn over, insert the hook into the same stitch from the previous row and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Now yarn over, pull through all 5 loops on the hook, and then I stick my finger into the bobble because I want it to push forward. And chain 1. Many times people do their bobbles. They make their bobbles, and this would be the front. And I like the way bobbles look on the fronts of the stitches. So that's why I'm doing this. But once we get this next stitch in here, it's going to be fine. It's not going to want to go back and forth. Although, I'm going to give you a little secret about this jacket. Once we get it finished, it'll actually be reversible. And you can wear it on whichever side you like, and both sides will be different. So I'm letting the cat out of the bag early. So here we go. Half double crochet. After you finish that bobble, you do chain 1. Half double crochet, chain 1, and then in the next chain space, half double crochet. We'll have the same number of stitches that we did before. 1 more chain and half double crochet. Chain again. Now we're going to start our second bobble. And again, once again, it's going to go into the beginning, the first double crochet from our double crochet 2 together, and it looks like a P. Here's where we're going in right there. Here's the leg of that P, and there is him going around. Okay. Yarn over, insert the hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. 3 loops on your hook. Repeat that again. And repeat that again. Now you have 5 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, chain 1, half double crochet in the next chain space from the previous row. Okay? And if you want to stick your finger in there and finesse that bobble, it makes it look a little bit better. Chain 1, half double crochet in the chain space from the previous row. Chain 1, half double crochet in the chain space from the previous row. Chain 1, and into that top of that first double crochet from the double crochet 2 together. Insert the hook and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Repeat that 3 more times. Five loops on the hook. Insert your finger a little bit to push him through. Yarn over, pull through all 5 loops. Chain 1. This is your pattern repeat. Continue stitching in this manner until the corner, and I will meet up with you there. I'm coming up to the corner now, and whatever you do in the first corner, try to do that in every corner. So I have a bobble and I have one of my chain and then a half double crochet, so I'm going to chain and half double crochet again, and then I'm going to chain again, and I'm going to put in another half double crochet And the reason for that is we need, what the half double crochets on each side of the bobbles do is it tells the bobble how tall it's going to be. So I need it to be closer than the space before it, or it would have a tendency to rise up. And this is right on the corner, and I love having a bobble right here in the corner. And I always, even if I have to fudge this stitches a little bit, I always will put a bobble on the corner of my jackets. It's just it's a neat effect
when bobble stitches are used.
So there again, we've got our
4-stitch bobble,
it's 3, 4, and chain 1, and you still put that half double crochet right beside the bobble in that same space in the corner. Okay, and then I always look at what happened on the other corner, and I do exactly the same thing. So I have a chain, half double, chain, half double, and then the next bobble,
so that there is consistency on each side of the corner. I do this even if it's not exactly the stitch pattern. From here, continue the pattern repeat until the end of this row.
And I'm back to my join for my bobble stitches, and now I'm going to change my yarn. It's a premium red heart line, meaning it's it's a little step above the Super Saver and the stripes. It's really soft, and there is a stripe in the polo that's very close to the boysenberry color yarn that I'm going to add to this next row. And it's a very easy row. We need a little rest after all those bobbles, and so this will be a much easier stitch.
In fact, they're just double crochet.
But I'm going to join the yarn in the exact same manner that I've done before. My first loop is both the end as well as the working yarn on the new color that I'm adding, and then I drop the end piece, the tail end, and then pull the color from the previous row where it doesn't even show. And chain 2, we're going to come in with double crochet into the top of the next stitch. No, that's, yes, right next to that place where we joined. In fact, it may be the same stitch. I'd have to really look closely. Okay, and I am crocheting over my new color tail, and I haven't yet clipped the color from the previous row, but after I crochet over it a couple of more times, then I will. Our next 2 double crochets are going to be in the chain space from the previous row. 2 double crochets in the chain space. Now I'm going to drop my yarn tails, and you can see where all of my color changes are there. Now I'm going to clip the Limelight, my green color, because I don't need him anymore. Now I'm going to drop my yarn ends, and I'm going to come into the next chain space with a double crochet. 2 double crochets.
Now begins your pattern repeat for this row. When you reach your corners, stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets, and begin your pattern repeat again.
I've reached the end of that round, and I'm going to join again the same manner that I did before. So I've inserted my hook where I would slip stitch to join, and then I have yarned over the color I'm working with now. And then with my new color, I leave a generous tail on there, but we can adjust that once it gets through. And I hook a loop over the claw of my crochet hook, and then I pull through both of the colors, the color from that I've been working with, as well as the new one. Okay, I didn't get that first. Didn't get the old yarn. There we go. Now I've got both the yarn from the previous round as well as my new yarn on the hook. Now I'm going to take those two and pull through the loop from my last stitch. Then I'm going to drop the previous yarn and grab both the tail as well as the working end of the yarn and yarn over and pull through that loop. Then I'm going to pull down my old yarn, and he just completely disappears. And now I'm going to chain up one more through those two loops from my brand new yarn, and then I'm going to begin to crochet over the color from the previous round as well as my new tail. I'm going to crochet over that a couple or 3 stitches. And this round is all half double crochet in the top of each stitch. So half double crochet.
And that is your pattern repeat for this row. Half double crochet in the top of each stitch from the previous round. In your corner, 2 half double crochet, chain 1, and 2 half double crochet. I'll meet you at the end of this round.
I've completed the last round of our extended stitches to increase the width of our hexagon half. And so I'm going to slip stitch and pull up a loop and clip that. I'll come back later because I'm going to do an invisible join here, and so I don't want to bore you with that. I've already done it several times. Now then, the next step is to put the edging treatment similar to what we did on the other 3 sides of our hexagon. We start out, and I always start underneath the arm, at the underneath seam, pretend that there's a seam up there. And so this is what color I've got next, and it's close to the color. Anyway, like I said, I am color controlling, but there's only so much I can do because this is all the yarn I have left on this scheme, which is great. I don't want more scrap yarn. I have all the scrap yarn that I need to make my mystery yarn. That was a little sidebar. Let's go back to our, now let me make sure. Yes, somewhere along here, you don't have to be precise. Just I don't count my stitches or anything. I just fold it and stab my hook in somewhere. But we want to go into the top of the stitch from the previous round.
In any stitch under the arm opposite the shoulder seam.
And I started with a slip knot on my hook and then just insert into one of the stitches of your choosing. And then I single crochet to start. And then chain up one more. And then yarn over and go back into that same stitch, and I am crocheting over my tail, my end. I hate to keep saying tail. My mother never let me say tail growing up, and so I feel bad every time I say it. Okay, all right, and through 2 loops, and then through both the loops that are on the hook. Chain 1, skip a stitch into the next stitch, and I'm gonna go over that yarn end one more time. Three loops on the hook. chain one, skip a stitch. Now I'm going to drop my yarn end because I'll go back later and weave that in. And that is our pattern sequence. The first row is exactly like it was on the body of the hexagon. We're going to skip a stitch, insert the hook into the next stitch, double crochet 2 together into the same stitch.
And this is your pattern repeat for this round. Whenever we get to the end of this round, we will be joining another color, and I will meet with you there.
I've made my double crochet 2 together, chain 1, skip a stitch, and repeat in the next stitch pattern all the way around. And now I'm going to join to the top of the very first stitch, and I'm going to change my yarn color again, change yarns, and I'm going to do it exactly the same way as we did before. And then in this row, we're going to do it still exactly the way we did on the body of the hexagon. So we're going to chain 1, and that's tall enough for the half double crochet. Then we're going to yarn over and half double crochet back into that same stitch. And chain 1 and half double crochet into the chain space from the previous row, and chain 1, half double crochet into the chain space again, and that's 3 half double crochets. We'll still chain. I'm done with the yarn from the previous row, so I'm going to clip that. And I will chain 1, and we're going to make that 4 stitch. I don't need to crochet over the yarn end again. I've done it through 3 stitches. So yarn over and insert the hook into the top of that first double crochet 2 together stitch. Looks like a P. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Repeat that again. And one more time. Five loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, and chain 1.
And this is your pattern repeat for this round. Whenever you get to the beginning point, we will join another color of yarn, and I will meet up with you there.
At the end of this row with my bobbles, probably technically I should have had a bobble here, but there is not another stitch for it since that's the stitch that we started. And this may happen to you, or you may just choose to have it end like this anyway, because I do think for comfort for wearing, if you don't have a bobble right there, right under your arm, whenever your arm is hanging down by your side, that may actually be more comfortable. It's not going to show whether it has a bobble there or not. No one is ever going to notice that. Now it's time to change to our next color, and so we're back at our boysenberry. Now on this one's where this row is where we're definitely going to change the stitch height. Before we used a double crochet, and on this one we're going to use a single. A half double crochet. Half double crochet. And so whenever we're adding our new color on, we're going to pull through that loop, both colors, and then through the loop for the last stitch. Then pull through both of the yarns
for the new color.
Drop the tail, pull down the yarn from the previous row where he doesn't show. and then chain 1. Half double crochet into the same stitch. And I'm going to crochet over my yarn ends for just a couple or 3 stitches. Half double crochet. And into the next chain space, 2 half double crochet. Now I'm finished with my limelight, so I'm going to clip that yarn, put it to the side, and I'm going to drop all of the yarn ends. I've crocheted over them a couple or 3 stitches, so I'm going to drop it now and move into the next chain space and 2 half double crochet. And then into the chain space before the bobble, right on the other side of that half double crochet, and then we made a chain before we started the bobble. In that space there, half double crochet. Whoops. It's actually right here. I wasn't quite up far enough. Half double crochet, and then on the other side of the bobble there's another chain space. Half double crochet there, and then into the next chain space.
And this is your pattern repeat for this round. When you reach the end of this round, we will join our final color for the sleeve. I'll meet with you there.
I've completed this round and I'm ready to slip stitch to join, but I have one more color change, one final color change, and that is back to for me, it's the hot rose, it's called. And so I'm going to join my new color the same way that I have joined all the other colors. I'm going to pull the 2 colors through and through the last loop from my last stitch, and then pull up the yarn end as well as the working yarn from the new color. Pull down my color from the previous row, and I will chain 1, but on the sleeve I want to have only single crochet in every stitch from the previous row. So go back into that same stitch where you slip stitched and joined the new yarn and place 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch 1 single crochet, and I am stitching over my yarn ends for a couple or 3 stitches. And now I'm done with the boysenberry, and so I'm going to clip that yarn and get him out of the way, and single crochet in the top of each stitch from the previous round.
And this is your pattern repeat. Slip stitch to join at the end of this round and tie off the yarn. Repeat these steps on the body of the hexagon jacket as well as on the sleeves to the other hexagon half.
I've gotten all of my yarn ends weaved in, and I have one more detail before we begin to join up in the back. And again, as I indicated before, I'm a more is more person, and any time that you want to stop embellishing on your project, you just stop, because it is a beautiful project right now, or it would have been 2 rows ago. I mean, you stopping with your baubles, that would have been a nice look too. But more is more, and I have one more embellishment. I have an example from one of my sides right now, and what I did is I just ran the slip stitch between the last 2 rows of my polo stripe, and all the way around and just gave a little accent. And I like the way it looks. And I think it ties in the edging that I put in. I think it ties it all in really nicely.
Because the hot rose really isn't in the polo stripe colorway, but the pink looks good with it anyway.
You need a slip knot on your hook, but you're going to come in with this first loop from the underneath. And I'm starting at one of the stitches that's underneath my arm. And I'm going to come up from a post, under the post, not this way under the post, but this way, parallel to the stripe. Okay. And to begin your slip stitch embellishment, again, if this is not something you want to do, then just fast forward to the join of the two up. But I'm going to add this final embellishment to mine because I want to tie in this hot pink better with this color gradient of this particular skein of yarn. So with a slip stitch on the hook, go under the post, but I'm also in the top of that stitch, just as if I'm in the same spot where the stitch in the next row is standing. Insert the hook there in that post, and then pull up a loop. And the first one's a little bit tricky because you've got that slip stitch, you've got the slip knot that you're going through. Oh, wait a minute, I went the wrong way. Pull the slip knot through to the other side and then yarn over and go through the slip knot, just like that. That's just to attach the yarn. Let me move my tail now to the back. Keep him out of the way. Now the next stitch, you go into that same place in the next stitch and pull up a loop. It looks like you have a single crochet on your hook, and just take that second loop and go through the other loop. Again, go through the next stitch, under the post, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the first loop. And I'm going to do that all the way around in this exact same place, all the way around. So I'll do it on and it'll also, because it's going to also show on the sleeve, because we're going around all 6 sides. And I really like the way it looked on the other side, and so that's why I decided to do it again on this side. It can also be done with a threaded yarn needle, but I find it is easier to keep your stitches consistent by doing it with a crochet hook, because you've got that hook there for your gauge every single time. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm adjusting that gauge and then pulling that loop through. And this is called surface crochet. And I check my gauge every single stitch so that the stitches are all exactly the same height. I take my fingernail and kind of the loop to go to the next stitch so that he's in the same place every stitch. Now I'm going to take you to the corner and show you what we do there, because we've got a hole. And so I'm going to show you what we do there. I don't know that it's the only way to get over there, but it's the way that I chose on the other hexagon halves, so I'm going to do the same so they'll look the same. So every time I'm checking that gauge and then pulling that second loop through the first one. Every time, check that gauge, pull the second loop through the first loop. Now, we don't have any more stitches to go into. So I chain one here and make sure I'm careful that I don't pinch that chain and shrink up and choke this chain right here. And then I pull that loop up. Let me turn my work a little bit. Insert my hook from the bottom, pull that loop around gently, gently, and then into the next stitch. Oops, chain one, and now into the next stitch. Actually, that's the second one. Go into this first one here. He's a little bit more difficult to get into. There it is. Just get the best you can to wrap him around. If you skip this first stitch, it looks stretched. And then pull that loop through very gently. And then the next stitch. And the next stitch, and on around till you've done all 6 sides. And I'm going to finish this up, and then I'll be back with you and we'll join the 2 hexie halves together
in part 2 of this jacket tutorial.
we're going to have a jacket.